that you can give a synthesis of what is the content of this group of projects that you are coordinating. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andres. Indeed, I'm very glad to be here today and introduce this section because, as you were saying, I've been the project manager for 3 of these projects, and I know very well also the activities of the other 2. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that we will hear something interesting today. Very good result, very interesting activities. In a nutshell, we will see the presentation of 5 projects. So we have 3 projects that is Cities for People, Move, and Metamorphosis, really focused on the co-creation approach to develop together with the citizen innovative mobility solution. Another 2 projects that is Star and Motive, that anyway, they didn't go directly for co-creation, but still have a large engagement of citizens to secure, to support their activities. That is the impact of car sharing schemes on the transport network for stars, and a very interesting investigation on the value of travel time for Motive. So what is the co-creation? Sometimes it's confused with what in the past was called bottom-up approaches. But in the past, normally the bottom-up approaches were engaging citizens in a specific phase of the project. So it could be the user requirement at the beginning, or could it be the assessment of the solution at the end. While with the co-creation approach, these projects have really engaged the citizens from the very beginning to the very end. So from the initial assessment of the needs and the design of the solution, and then the assessment of the solution and the evaluation. We will see from the presentation that we will follow this approach as a lot of advantages and strength, but has also some challenges to be overcome. So I don't want to waste the time for the presentation. I thank you very much. I pass you the floor again, Andres, and enjoy the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrea, for this introduction. And then let's go to giving the floor to the different projects. First one, Cities for People, who is community-driven. It's really, as Andrea said, empowerment of communities just to install and to develop innovation at neighborhood level from different kind of sustainable projects, sustainable measures. So the idea is to create these community activities in relation with the mobility innovation. So the floor is for Isabel Flores. She's a postdoc at the Copenhagen Business School and service designer working on this project. Thank you very much, Gadir, for this presentation, and I will ask all the speakers to switch on because the questions probably will come very soon. I have a first consideration, which is most of the project, I would say, all the projects are producing some kind of guidelines, mobility kits, or indicators, procedures. So this is really something very useful because it's not only relying on the specific results from the case studies in the different cities and so on, but producing something that is a toolkit or guidebook or whatever that could be used for replication of the results, application in other contexts, used for other people in the same cities, but in other areas, and so on. And I really enjoy a lot seeing all the results and all the advance in these 5 projects. And then I have, well, in the meantime, if there are any questions at the moment not, but I have one question for first for the City for People, Isabel project. You mentioned that you have this mobility kit with 15 prototypes. I didn't understand which prototypes are you testing in this mobility kit that you are offering to other.
Okay, now, sorry, I was trying to turn on my microphone, wasn't turning on. So the mobility kit, so within the mobility kit, when you go, you have the 5 city cases, and it shows like in each, so when you click in each of the cities, you can see which tools were used in which phase of the project they were used for which part of like both for prototyping, but also for piloting and scaling up. So how they were used within the project. So you can see their timelines, as we call, like the city's timelines. It's like online. You can go in and you can see how each of the tools, not only how they are described, what they are, but also the templates. You can download whatever templates that were used. And you can see how they were used in the project. And yeah, and this is combined with the I mean, if you combine this with the blueprint, you really have pretty much a whole what do you call manual almost of how to replicate this project somewhere else, with all the aspects that need to be considered, both from the meetings and meeting organizations, but also in terms of permits that are required, in terms of how to reach people and like everything. And during the events, like which tools were used and how they're used.
Okay, well, thank you. We will look at that. Also, this kind of, I mean, very broad kind of community approach. So it's not only specific mobility users or children or elder or whatever, but everybody is participating apparently in this city or people project, which is important. So I have another question for Carl Heinz for Metamorphosis, which is really a nice approach. I apologize because I couldn't step in before you started. There was something wrong with the microphone, so I couldn't introduce yourself properly, but the presentation was clear, and this Austrian Mobility Research Group company that you are working for is clearly stated in the presentation. But the idea is, you at the beginning you presented like a children indicator, I would say, no? If children are in the streets, means that, but also there are other activities like the trees in the streets and other activities. I mean, how do you select who is the main actor in each of those activities? Because of course are clearly different. I mean, the trees issue is all people. The other, I mean, using parking spaces for example, stay areas or are oriented to other people. How do you select how to evaluate the impact of the different kind of measures that you are testing in the project?
You hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, there were several questions. So one thing is our project had this focus on children. So we looked primarily at situations where we could maybe involve children or involve schools, and then you look, of course, at places where there is the possibility. So that if you have a very busy street, you cannot do much. But if it's a more quiet street, you can have a much more potential for transformation. And then it was in each city that we had as partner. They looked at certain specific places that they want to change. So as you saw, this parking space in Merano, or there was specific places where they installed new mobility share points in Zurich, where they said, okay, what can we create except from what we already do? What can we do as an extra factor? And to work with children is a very good strategy because the children are very important for the parents, and so the parents are more motivated to change things because they look at the street in a different perspective. They don't see it as a place where you want a parking space, but they see it as a place where the children have to be safe or where they can play. So this is the thing that was important for us to see how we can work with children, and it has turned out to be quite successful. So we have now, for example, in Graz, the hometown, We have now a program where we look at all the primary schools in the city and look at the potential for change for each of these schools.
Thank you very much. And then the third project in this co-creation session, I mean, related focus on co-creation was MOVE, Mobility Urban Values. And Domenico, sorry also for not being at the beginning for these sound problems. But I feel it's interesting that you base everything in these maps that you create about the data that you are collecting through the apps that you have developed. But one of the most striking results you presented is this almost 25,000 people engaged actively in the project. No? I don't know if it's, I mean, you engage through the apps or through the different navigator you mentioned and that you have developed in the project, or how do you, because so many people it's impossible to contact personally, I guess. So this is clearly a good example for, I mean, large co-creation schemes, no? Domenico, could you?
I think he's having trouble turning on his microphone as well. Yes, I had the same trouble before. So.
I had the same problem before. I had to leave the session and enter again. I don't know if it's what is the way to do that.
Can you hear me now?
No, it's okay.
Yeah. Now the red light just appeared. So I'm very happy, Andres, to avoid you to disconnect and connect again. So everybody. Thanks for the question. Thanks, Andres, also for the nice word at the end of the presentation. Yes, as you already mentioned, co-creation was a really key focus of our project, basically for one reason. Since we decided to develop this mobile service, this game, this mobile app, we wanted to be sure that our app would be able to engage users in all the different kind of contexts. And if you saw the map that I showed about the cities, the 6 cities we selected for the project were very different cities, because we selected biggest metropolis such as Barcelona or Amsterdam, big European metropolis, but also small cities such as Ghent. We selected Palermo, which is at the southest part of Europe, at the same time Helsinki. And what we wanted to be sure is that our game should be engaging and fun in order to reach and involve all the different kind of citizens, and also being able to tackle all the mobility issues in the different cities that are, of course, super different. And that's how we use co-creation. By engaging the local communities, we started to talk with them, to ask them what there were their expectations, desires, fears about mobility, and then what they liked, what were the nice, enjoyable experiences they got while they were leaving the cities. And then starting from them, we extracted these insights and then we transform into service requirements. And we use the so-called iterative design methodology. So we did it not just once, but 3 times. So every time the circle was co-creation, so extract information, value, insights, transform into service requirements, develop the app, test the app, collect feedback, understand what is working and what is not working very well, and then trying to adapt and change. And by doing it, we discovered that co-creation is really super powerful and helped us to cut a lot of time and so resources and money, and at the same time being able to engage very different kind of communities. And this was just the first part, because then there was the second part. You said it right. The engaging the use of the app is just the first part of our service. Okay, so being able to reach people and nudge them to change the habits about mobility. But then there was more. This was the kind of bottom-up, the bottom-up approach as I described in my presentation. Then there was the top-down. So once we got the data through the app about people mobility, then we were able to use such data to discuss with public administration, municipalities, public entities, and so forth, in order to help them to reshape or modify or enhance their mobility policies according to the data. So we performed what we call evidence-based decision-making process. So we use our data to decision-making by using our evidences. And we do it again by using co-creation, because we don't go to the public administration and say, okay, this is the data, use it in order to improve your policies. No. We engage the public administrations, the stakeholders such as the local transport companies and the people, the citizens, or the local shop community, for example, and then we put all of them around the table, and to co-creation we did other workshops trying to extract again from the maps new insight and new information and to transform into solutions, proposals, small changes in policies, etc., etc., etc. And this was again super effective. So at the end of the story, we were very lucky to decide to rely on co-creation, because we discovered something that at the beginning we couldn't imagine. Was really a super powerful tool, and we are now with the Movigator, we are quite confident that even if we are not again able to run the workshop in person, by using this tool, other communities could be able again to adopt Move and trying to replicate the positive impact that we had in all our cities. So I'm very happy also for this. I call it the legacy of our project, because now we have a company, we're trying to transform Move into a sustainable business, which is another challenge. It's a different story. We are relying with companies, schools, etc., etc. But at the same time, we want to keep the opportunity to use the app free and open to all the different municipalities. Last thing, also with the company, the Move business model will maintain the data open to all. So we will continue to release all the data that all the users are registering to our app, of course, by anonymizing them and aggregating them, but as open data. So we are not selling data in our business model, which is crucial. We are a big corp, so we don't want to use people privacy, people information to do our profit. We do our profit using engagement and certifying the CO2. The data is something that it's something that is it's owned by the community, so it's not ours.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Domenico. Very impressive. All the itinerary you have run, from the idea to the instrument and also to this new company to continue the services, which is clearly good. And then, did you make any kind of, the two-way interaction, along the project with these 20,000 people? You mentioned that you sent back the data and the data were open, but you actively ask them every time to keep them alive, or because my experience is totally the contrary, people are interested at the very beginning, but they go down, the interest go down more or less quickly in a few months, so you have to restart again the interest and so on. So this is why I was so impressed on these figures.
Yeah, of course, this is the problem with every kind of digital service, in particular with games. Games at the beginning can be very fun, but after, as you say, 1 week, few weeks, you can lose interest in them. And that's why we constantly try to create new game dynamics with different time spans in order to give people the opportunity to get involved more and more with Move. So, for example, one thing that we tested and that we're going to test again here with the company was the tournament. So not constantly, but every couple of months, there is a tournament among cities. And so all the citizens are selected, like the national teams in sport competition, to represent their own city. And this is something very engaging. So even if you, for example, downloaded the app, started to use it for a couple of weeks, then you stopped because it was not part of your routine, it can happen. Then you receive a notification by saying, okay, your city selected you to be part of the next tournament. It's starting in 1 week, it's starting in 10 days. So we're trying to turn on again the spark for users to play again and again. And we have different game dynamics, so tournaments, so team challenges, single challenges, training sessions, so in order to challenge the user itself, so with no connection with the other one, so just single challenges, etc., etc. And of course, we demonstrated that there are kind of users that prefer one game dynamic, other users prefer the other one, but at the end, by keeping different game dynamics on and by giving them the opportunity to turn on and off, every time you have something new, something exciting that is happening. So of course, the challenge is not solved, because of course, after several months, users sometimes get sick of it and they want to not use the app anymore or uninstall it, etc., etc. But this, like all the kind of games I said before, is the continuous challenge, how we can make the game more fun, more engaging, keep people attached, etc., etc., etc. It's something that we are constantly working on. As you say, the data by now are nice, are positive, but this doesn't mean that we won our challenge. It's something that we keep going, keep continuing, improving until we will really have a really big mass of users. By now we don't, so it's going to be a long journey, but we are confident that we can make it.
Okay, thank you. So these three are the most focused on co-creation projects. I don't know if, Andrea, you have to make any, cross-project comment on these three co-creation projects. I don't know if Andrea is connected or could connect.
I'm here. I'm trying to. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
I don't know why the camera is.
But the sounds is okay.
I'm impressed by the presentation and by the results. As I mentioned before, I know the projects because I've been the project officer for 3 of them, and I know well of the other 2. I know the big advantages of the co-creation. I know that the co-creation comes with a price, the cost. I mean, is a demanding process for the setup and for managing the process. I mean, to keep the people involved, as Domenico was saying, is not just to launch the thing, but to keep the people engaged. I'm impressed by.
Some problems. I guess there are some sound problems with the micro, Andrea. Perhaps we can come back to the end and your intervention when solving these connection problems. And then I have a question for Johannes related to the car sharing. I understand that there was a first step, which is a free floating system to enter in the car sharing business, I would say, and this is your recommendation. But at the same time, there are very different systems on free floating. I mean, big cities, small cities, city centers, and I'm particularly interested in having ideas related to the suburban experiences, because most of the, at least what I know from several cases, most of the free floating car sharing systems are always in the city center, where public transport, pedestrian alternatives are really important. So while in the suburbs there is a lack of good mobility systems, and then car sharing could be a solution, but normally are not located in those areas, but in the city center. Do you have collected any experience from this kind of metropolitan borough?
Yes. Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks a lot to the other speakers too. I found very interesting presentations on co-creation. to come back on your question, Andres, indeed, our focus within the STARS project was mainly on city centers. So we had quite some data from like the cities of Milan and Torino, and also some German cities, Frankfurt, Hamburg, and so on, Berlin. And it was mostly data from the city center, where we have both systems of free-floating car sharing and station-based round-trip car sharing systems, especially in Germany. In Italy, we see mostly only free-floating car sharing in the Italian cities. So we don't have very good data on suburban regions, I would say, but I think one of the main reasons we see free-floating, especially in the city centers, is, like you said, the link with public transport is an important one. If people have good access to public transport, it is really, together with the offer of car sharing, it can be a real substitution of car ownership. Or maybe the only car or the second car in the household can be removed and can be switched, or can be, people can use car sharing and public transport instead. So that's one of the main reasons in suburban regions the offer of public transport is probably less good. However, we see that I think more like the station-based round-trip systems, and also people that share private cars among each other, that are systems that can work also out of the real city centers, because people can find a car on a specific spot. They know where they can find a car. It's mostly located in more dense area, but still it can work out of the big cities. We see it in Belgium, we see it in Germany and other European cities. And then it is important. It can be interesting if you can link it to a local bus stop or a local train station in the suburban region, where people still have the access to the public transport, maybe not as dense as in the city center, but still it can work. We even in Belgium and in the Flanders region, we have some examples of very small villages, even, or municipalities that have a car sharing system in operation, with some households using one or more shared cars. So you don't have to look only at big cities. There are systems that are adapted to smaller scales, but with less possible users, but it can work if you find if you have a good communication. For example, if you can show the advantages to people. I like very much the examples that were shown in the Metamorphosis project, where you can if you show what we can do with the space that is now allocated to parked cars, and if you can show to people what we can do with that space if we get some cars out of the streets and replace them by one or two shared cars. That's something we are also doing as an organization in Belgium, and that we believe that's one of the core things governments and local authorities can do to show the advantages, and then it can also work in smaller cities and suburban areas. But indeed, for now, it is mainly the bigger cities.
It's good to know that there are some experiences out of the centers, which is the most visible, kind of experiments. But solving the problems in the suburbs is really a challenge. Yeah. Thank you. And then also, I would like to have a question to Gadir related to this worthiness index incorporated to the cost-benefit analysis. So did you practice or you apply that in some of the cities that you have this, applied in this project? Or, you change the value of time, in other ways, the profitability of some of the projects due to these changes in the value of the time on board, or?
Thank you for this question. So actually, the main purpose of this project, to go beyond this kind of, traditional concept of the travel time and the cost saving. So the most of, these transport project appraisals, they are based on that. So then we tried, to focus more on the user's perspective, to see that to what extent, they perceive their travel time worthwhile. So this most of cost-benefit analysis approach, they use this kind of, the willingness to pay in terms of the monetary values. So we try to use this, this worthwhileness concept to be replaced with this willingness to pay. So based on that, we propose this worthwhileness index, based on these 3 elements that we had in our project: productivity, fitness, and enjoyment. So to see that to what extent this, these 3 new proposed elements can be a part of the cost-benefit analysis, but unfortunately, due to some kind of the limitation, we could not practice because we didn't have this opportunity to collect information from transport service providers to be able to test or worthwhileness index in their this transport appraisal system that they have. But it's a part of our plan for other projects of each 2020 project. So that recently granted, we would like to test this worthwhileness index there. So for sure, we will get a very, in my view, very interesting results. And it gives a new, I would say, angle to this transport appraisal system that mostly focus on the transport infrastructure. But this worthwhileness index can also contribute that what exactly is expectations and interest of users. So because users are the the people that that they use transport modes. So it's good that we have a very good infrastructure and very for instance punctual transport system, but what exactly people want, end users want, it should be also part of the transport planning. So and as I already mentioned, this worthwhileness index for sure will be part of it. It has this potential that to be part of this cost benefit analysis for transport systems.
Thank you very much. As far as there is no question for the audience, I will try again, Andrea, if he can connect to say some wrapping words. Could you hear us, Andrea? Because
I think he has left.
Okay. Well, anyway, I think all the presentations are really interesting and providing new insight and new ways of looking at the reality. The mobility, particularly the co-creation projects, are really innovative from my point of view, from my experience. So from the Urban Mobility Working Group of AirTrack, I think there are really new ideas for the mobility roadmap that we should to produce every time. So probably we will have to incorporate new ideas in this project, and also this car sharing and this consideration of the value of time is clearly a critical point in all the projects. And I agree with Gadir that the way cost-benefit analysis is considering time is not valid anymore, because it's not only saving time, but it's also using this time in a proper way. So this is clearly a new angle, as you say, which is clearly productive in the future. So, well, anyway, I think we should close this this session because there is no more question. Thanking all you for the presentation, for the ideas, for the hard work during the project, which is really impressive. And I hope that you can go further in the future with the results of the project, developing new things and new tools for cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the moderation. Thank you for the
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.